Can somebody do Beyond Shelby? I know.
Okay, we are live. Good evening and welcome to the meeting of the Weymouth Town Council Environment Services Committee on the 4th of March 2026. Welcome to anyone watching online and everyone in the room as well. We've got officers, members of the public and obviously councillors here today. So we will go straight into apologies for absence. I'm aware that we have Councillor Harmsworth who's been substituted by Councillor Harris. Welcome, Councillor Harris. Are there any further apologies or substitutions? Good. So members are asked to approve the apologies and substitutions. So I will propose that one. You happy to second, Councillor Taylor?
Yeah.
Councillor Taylor seconding. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you very much. Next, item 3 is declarations of interest. There's none that have been pre-notified. Are there any declarations at this point? Councillor Hope.
Thank you very much, Chair. Declare a non-pecuniary interest in item 8. As already on record, I'm a member of Weymouth Port Lions Club, who hire council land to host events.
Thank you very much. Any other declarations of interest? If any do crop up as we go through, please do just raise a hand and make us aware. The next item, still going through the sort of starter elements of this meeting. So item 4 is minutes of the last meeting. That was held on the 21st of January 2026. And members are asked to agree the minutes of the last meeting held on the 21st of January 2026 are a true and accurate record and they be signed as such. However, is there any discussion or any points anyone would like to raise first? Not seeing any indication, so I will propose the recommendation that I just read out.
I'll second.
Councillor Taylor's happy to second. All those in favour? Unanimous again, thank you very much. Item 5 is councillor questions and statements. None have been set out in advance, so we'll move straight on to item 6, public questions. We've got 2 questions or statements this evening, and we're going to start with Mr. Pete West, please. Maybe you'd like to come up next to Councillor Harris, that'd be great.
Yeah, thanks so much for inviting me along. Very democratic. It's a relatively simple question about allotments. Allotment holder at Western Crossroads, which is the top of Abbotsbury Road, and there's been an issue for the last almost year, and it's partly to do with the frequency of inspections by the Green Spaces council, the allotment officer, and basically she's been very diligently inspecting allotments once a month, but that's okay. We don't disagree at all with the exact policy that allotments have to be kept clean and tidy, and some inspections are needed and 75% cultivation. But what's evolving is it the way that this your policy has been implemented. And for example, a year ago, out of our allotments, 70 allotment plots, about 30 people in March had a letter to say your cultivation is not up to standard. If it's not improved in a month, the tenancy may be terminated. Well, somebody actually knows anything about allotments. It's impossible to cultivate allotments over the winter months. Another example, there was a woman took over an allotment last April. She had a non-cultivation notice in October, and basically we had 5 months of without rain. It was impossible to get a fork into the ground, and she was basically threatened with eviction. So she almost, she's a new allotment holder. She almost felt like giving it up straight away. So really, what I'm asking is quite a simple request: is that somebody from a councillor or somebody in some sort of authority can just request the way that the policy is implemented is much more sympathetic to the needs of allotment holders. And it would save you a lot of money. I'm suggesting maybe 2 inspections a year, perhaps in June, maybe in August, September, October, twice a year to implement the policy. I mean, otherwise, honestly, the level of anxiety this is an understatement what I'm saying, but there's another example. There's the woman was in tears at home, and basically because of this, she's given up an allotment, and her father before her had that allotment. And even I was there today, and honestly, with the current stress in the world, I just found it absolutely relaxing to doing something really, really simple at our allotment. So that's my simple question. And I don't know how it works in practice, but please could somebody let me know in future. We have got an allotments forum. And that's my other slight complaint or concern. The allotments forum was set up last November to really have a bit more dialogue with the town council green spaces team, and also to help other allotment holders help each other out, which is really nice, and it's what allotments are about. We had a meeting with the green spaces team 7 weeks ago, and this was one of the items we discussed. And basically, we've had nothing since, except a cheery little newsletter. We're going to start the inspections again in March.
Thank you very much. Mr.
Okay, pretty good say.
Thank you very much. I'm going to hand over to Charmaine Denny to provide a response now.
So thank you for your question and for the proposed changes to the current terms and conditions, specifically regarding the regularity of which our officers inspect allotment plots. At present, we feel that monthly inspections are required as there have been a high level of turnover in the last 12 to 24 months, both from an officer point of view, so we've had a turnover of staff within that team, and where plot holders are concerned as well. Allotment plots have always been inspected on a regular basis, and the decision was made to move to monthly visits so that all sites can be brought back up to the required standard. While it is recognised that it may be a minority of plot holders that currently require inspections at such regular intervals, officers need to apply a consistent approach to ensure all plot holders are treated fairly. With that in mind, there has been discussion regarding what changes could be made once all plots are occupied and being maintained to the required standard. Initial thoughts would be that inspections would become bi-monthly in the first instance, occurring in April, June, August and October, with just one inspection carried out during the winter period, if and when required. This would cover the start and end of the season to ensure that plots are being ready for planting and put to bed towards the end of the year, but also checking in to ensure they're being cultivated as per the terms and conditions. It must be stressed that these inspections are with the intention of ensuring plot holders are able to enjoy the sites to their fullest. The only use of notices and or non-cultivation notices are where it is deemed that there has been insufficient progress. When new plot holders are concerned, officers believe that 6 months should be sufficient amount of time to show progress, but equally, they are aware that new plots may not be up to that required standards right away. Leniency will always be shown where it is apparent that progress is being made. We would always encourage plot holders to get in touch with any concerns. We are aware of the importance of these spaces and the benefits they can bring with regards to health and well-being, and operational decisions are made with this in mind. Officers are keen to increase and build positive communication with all plot holders and to develop a close working relationship across all sites moving forward, and hope to see more sites follow the lead of Westing in the creation of a forum to strengthen this even further. We can
That's
send
fine.
that to you
It's
if you
just in
know.
terms of the dialogue, it would have been better if they'd communicated that within a few weeks to the middle of January. We had the meeting, save my time and your time.
Thank you, Mr. West.
Thank you.
So next up, we have Penny Courtney.
Thank
Welcome.
you. I'd like to address the committee on the same subject, actually. And the reason I didn't and couldn't put a question together was there seemed to be sort of a multifaceted problem. And one of the things I've been spending my time doing, and quite a lot of time, is reading through all the different policies. And there's a lot of good stuff, and I know the allotment officer personally, and I know lots of you personally, so it's always difficult coming here and being a little bit. It always feels you only come when you're critical. I want to just say I've been to Tumbledown on Monday, and it was absolutely amazing, and it was just great to see all the stuff going on up there. So I'm aware of the good stuff. I'm sorry that probably what I'm going to say is a little bit maybe challenging. I don't know. Hopefully it's constructive. I'm going to read it because I get nervous. So I've been reading the council's policies and plans in an attempt to understand the vision and plans for allotments, like what is the vision for community growing spaces. I was advised recently that a scrutiny of allotment leases was carried out in July in 2023, but I don't have any recollection myself of allotment tenants being included in that process. I've had a plot on the Rodwell site for several years, well, many years actually. And the reason I'm here is exactly the same as what Pete's just described. There's a lot of upset and distress that is being caused to tenants by the current management style. So we've got 69 plots on our site, And I'm in contact with, I would say, 3 other sites through my work with the Growing Connections Group and Weymouth Climate Hub. And this is a consistent story that's coming across. So from a tenant's perspective, the focus of this is the monthly inspections and the threat of non-cultivation notices and tenancy termination for failing to comply with varied and sometimes, I have to say, ill-informed directives. There are also conflicting messages that are being received, and it's adding to sort of general confusion out on the allotment side. I'm aware that there is work going on to look at the feedback and the complaints that have been received, and an outcome and response to tenants about this would be welcome, but there isn't anything coming back to us. I have read the Parks and Open Spaces strategy. It's comprehensive and allotments are included in it, but it is quite limited to 1 paragraph and 2 social objectives and 32 pages of document. That's excluding all the math. The main focus of all of this is on green spaces and the places that are open to the public for sort of recreation, which is quite different to allotments that are tenanted, sites that are not got sort of public access going on, if you like, and they're differently insured for that reason. So there are other areas that don't quite fit, as I feel that allotments don't in this sort of general sort of open space strategy. So things like cemeteries and even I think green flag awards have got like their own little plan and their own objective. But there's nothing for the allotments and community growing spaces. In fact, I could find absolutely no reference to food growing or any definition for allotments in any of the documents I looked at. The provision of allotments, I think we all know, is a statutory duty of the council. There is a demand for allotments in Weymouth. It's clearly documented in several places. And the new Weymouth Neighbourhood Plan identifies the need. And there is a policy number W56, which outlines this. So more allotment space is one of 2 objectives in the overall parks and open spaces strategy. And the other one of the 2 is to support allotment tenants in land management practices, composting, mulching, etc. I know at the moment Weymouth Town Council is currently reviewing the tumble down plan, which also sits under the parks and open spaces strategy. Food is grown here, and there's an active climate and ecological emergency plan that also identifies the importance of growing food. So I haven't got too much longer now.
30 seconds. If that's
Okay.
Thank you.
So a plan for increasing allotments could be included there. There is a stated commitment to implement, monitor, review and update this strategy, and this could conceivably happen at any point. I'm aware that management is rightly directed towards terms and conditions, and we all have to abide by that. But the green spaces, and I just want to make this last point, service plan has 3 objectives in it, 2 of which are fairly general, and obviously I can't read them out because of time. But the second one in there says ensure a quick turnaround of uncultivated plots to reduce the waiting list. And that one seems to be the one that everybody's focusing on, but there's nothing in any plans about how we're going to get more allotments.
Thank you.
So thank you for that. I'm going to leave that with you, and I hope that maybe we can get something.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I hadn't prepared a response.
I know there is a response, but I couldn't, there wasn't like a single
So
question.
what we will do is we will look at this and get a response to yourselves and the rest of the committee for the next meeting.
All right, thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much for your input. Thank you. Thank you very much. So at this point, we are going to move on to item 7, which is the beach hire review, being introduced by Will Holmes. Good evening, Will.
Thank you, Chair. So this report seeks approval to implement a trial of card-only payments for the 2026 beach hire season at Weymouth Beach. Currently, 65% of transactions are made by card, yet cash handling continues to incur high costs and require significant daily staff time for daily floats, recognitions, and banking. Card payments are more efficient to process, reduce administration burden and lower the operational risk associated with cash management. The council's card machines have operated reliably over the past 2 seasons, providing confidence that a card-only system is practical and low risk. The 2026 season would operate as a monitored trial with income, customer feedback and any accessibility impacts reported back to members at the end of the season, which includes a larger review of the beach hire. The officer recommendation is that members agree to the implementation of a trial card-only payment for the 2026 season, with feedback being brought back in later 2026. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Will. Would anyone like to discuss this further? Oh, sorry,
Thank you very much. As I've stated in regards to charging for public toilets, I am opposed to no cash options. I think that there are 2 aspects to this. Number one is that I think a number of people still only use cash for a majority of their transactions, whether that be for personal choice or they might be elderly, who still seem to be using cash far more than other age groups. And the second is an individual's personal choice. I think that we all have an individual choice in what way we wish to pay for something. In the private sector, I understand if a private sector company wants to go down this route, but we are not a private entity, we are a public body, and I think we should remain open to giving people the options of both cash and card when wanting to use a service such as this. So therefore, I'll be opposing it.
Councillor Dickinson?
I am a driver for Re-engage, which I take a lot of old people to the pavilion once a month. And I thought this would be a good idea for me to see how they pay for, they have 1 free cup of coffee and then if they want extra. And there was about 2 people that paid by card, the rest cash. And that sort of made me decide that I agree with Louis. A lot of older people do not like using cards. And it is a lot of older people that use the beach. And I think you're taking away that right, and I just don't think it is right. It's just a ridiculous idea, quite frankly, because also as well, if you took your card to the beach and lost it, just think of the stress. If you lose a couple of pounds, well, you can live with that. But a lot of older people are very wary about taking cards to pay for anything. Also as well, I think it's a little bit of a control thing, because then if we go down that route where we're all using cards, everybody in the media and whatever they're doing, everybody will know what you're paying for and what you're buying. I think it's a horrible thing, really.
At this point, I'm going to go to Will just to discuss the point from the report about over 60s, if you would.
Yeah, we have a scheme in place that anybody that's 60 or over that lives in Weymouth, or the Weymouth Town Council area, gets a free deck chair pass, which has no expiry date on it, and they'll be able to come and get it and use a deck chair for free.
Thank you. I thought that was just important to bring into.
Are we just talking about deck chairs here?
Well, can you explain the scope of the report?
Yeah, I mean, is it deck chairs or is it other things?
So this is for deck chairs, sunbeds, sun loungers, and windbreaks. So it's the beach hire offer, everything on the system.
Thank you very much, Will. Councillor Toff.
I think it's a good idea because I looked at what you said about savings, and I think we have to make savings where we can. I think maybe you don't advertise that people can pay by cash and see what the feedback is, and not just go like we're not doing cash for a whole year, but you actually keep it in the beach office. And if you find that you're getting, you know, negative feedback from people, then maybe you don't go the whole season without. I just think, you know, because I can just see echo headlines, really. I mean, I don't know, that's just my personal opinion. Maybe ease it in gently and just.
Sorry, Councillor Ware.
Thank you. I was going to bring up the over 60s free deck chairs because that does make a big difference. I also, I hate the idea that fewer and fewer of us use cash. And it's nice to have the options, but there are a whole lot of cafes in the town now who say card only, you know, is happening and we do have to embrace it. It's absolutely right. We're going to save, you know, a significant amount of money by being card only. And despite what a number of members have said about the thing of, you know, our public conveniences being, you know, if they're chargeable, they're card only, and a lot of old people don't use cards. I think that's simply not true. A lot do use cards, and we do need to be consistent. If we think that it's a legitimate trial to be card only for loos, which, you know, if you need the loo, you need the loo. If you need a deck chair and you can't pay for it, you don't actually need a deck chair. It's not going to leave you inconvenienced, is it? Fact is that most visitors, older visitors who come with family members, and if they can't use a card, their family member can. So I don't really think that we're inconveniencing people as much as it might be imagined. And I think we've got to give it a trial, because these are relatively small sums, but we're a relatively small council, and these small sums all add up. And we have to find ways of saving these small sums of money.
Thank you very much. We're going to go a little semicircle in sequence there. So Councillor O'Leary, then it'll be Councillor Taylor.
I've already spoken, so I'm happy to defer.
Okay, Councillor Taylor, thank you.
I think what we shouldn't forget here, this is just a trial. We're not actually changing the policies, we're not changing anything at the moment, we're doing this as a trial. And as part of that trial, I understand you're going to keep data on people that you haven't been able to, or who haven't been able to have deck chairs. But we need to get the information at the end of the trial so we can actually decide what we're going to do. This isn't a decision tonight that we're going to stop using cash. We haven't got the information before us to do that, so I'm voting for this because I believe in having the information that we need before we make a decision.
Councillor Hope first, and then Councillor Harris afterwards.
Thank you very much, Chair. I agree with everything Councillor Waller just said. You know, we are talking about items that aren't a necessity. And so that generally, in following the rule of toilets, you know, it pairs different. What I am wondering though, part of this recommendation, and I support it in many ways, as Councillor Waller said, lots of cash now are saying cash only, especially when there's a lot of temporary staff involved. We get a lot of rotation of staff with temps. We don't always know them. You know, there are always a bad apple in the bunch. We don't know how many pounds disappear off. And that's reality in a cash environment. I'm not saying that does happen, but it is a risk to factor in. And for that, I support it. The only thing I'm wondering, part of the recommendation here, that is if we actually do see this starts to impact massively our income, or have a real diverse negative effect, I'm wondering if we can, within the recommendation, give the officer discretion to reintroduce cash payments. So if by end of Easter or by beginning of August, we realise that actually this is having a real negative impact, that officer can take that decision straight away to put the cash sign, cash acceptance signs back up. I think that solves all the problems really.
That's a very sensible point. Well,
Yeah, I was just going to come in on that, that if that was possible, we'd be able to almost start charging cash again within the next day or so, because we use the card machines as the way of ticketing at the moment, and being able to go back to cash if there was a big impact, then yeah, we would be able to do that relatively quickly.
The other side of this is if we are incurring higher charges for cash handling, set a card price and a cash price. You get 10% discount if you're paying by card. Encourage people to go down the card methods. So that would then compensate the additional costs that you're receiving from the cash handling.
Councillor Harris.
What's been said is along the lines of I was thinking of. I was going to suggest that we reviewed the situation in June, at the end of June, before the real summer period came upon us. But what's been said, I think we can modify it even more. And yes, give the authority directly, because we don't need to bring it back to us. Give the authority directly now at this meeting to the manager to do what Councillor Hope has said, and let us have the opportunity of a discount I like that idea. And so if we do have to bring it back in as a consequence of what is found, then let's bring it back in with a 10% extra charge for cash on the charge we make with the card machine. So, you know, we could do both. Let's give the manager the opportunity to review it, change it if he has to, but equally to change it with bringing in this discount if he has to bring back the card side, the cash side of things.
Okay, so we're obviously hearing a bit of a theme forming here. It's going to require something up there on the screen, so do either of you have a form of words that you'd like to put up there?
To
I'm just looking to the two that spoken at first. Oh, we've got a, sorry,
Officers still have discretion to take cash payments if income is negatively impacted by the end of June.
It won't be a discount. Sorry,
No.
Chair, through you, it will be
Additional
an
charge.
additional charge for cash rather than discount. So you set your level.
How much to charge?
10%, thanks. How much are you charging for that?
If
You have to make it.
instead of percentage, could we
Yeah.
just say
Yeah.
flat fee, because 10% of £3.70 would be. 37p. So could we just say, yeah, just 30p on everything with that?
Because then it's a fixed sum and you're not setting change, are you?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Councillor O'Leary's been very patient, then we'll come back to this and we'll see where we are at with the discussion.
I think the most sensible option I heard this evening was actually what Councillor Toft said, which was about instead of doing this is not to advertise the cash option. But if people did need it at the last resort to do it, I think that was a far more fair and sensible option that avoids putting people off in any way, shape or form. We're not just talking, the deck chairs aren't just for people that have a permit. They're also not just for people that come down here from Birmingham or places like this on a holiday or a day trip. It's also people from Dorchester, Chickenham, other areas that do come down here as well, that may be put off from the option of having to use a card. People don't like being told what to do. It's human nature. I don't like being told what to do. And also cash is back on the increase. There was a 10% increase in cash withdrawals last year. Car boots use cash. There are plenty of barber shops, nail salons, not that I have my nails done, but other businesses in town that only take cash. There are plenty of businesses in town, for various reasons, that do only take cash. And I don't think we should, as a public service, be putting off people by going to a card only. So I can't even support this amendment. I would have been happy to have supported some from Councillor Toft in line of only advertising perhaps card, but having cash is unnecessary. I don't think it's fair to discriminate against people who also wish to pay by cash only either. So I'm afraid I can't support this.
Thank you. I'm just aware that we have a form of words on the board, but I don't have a proposer or seconder at this point.
I want to change a couple of the words before I propose it.
Councillor Harris?
To reintroduce rather than to take, reintroduce cash payments. Right, it's just a simple change. And then I'm happy to propose that.
Is anyone happy to second that form of words? I think Councillor Atkinson was first there. So at this point, this comes to recommendation. Is there any?
Could you read it out, Charmaine, please?
So the recommendation is that members agree to the implementation of a trial of card-only payments for the 2026 beach season with a full operational and financial review report brought back to committee at the conclusion of the 2026 season. Officers to have discretion to reintroduce cash payments if income is negatively impacted by the end of June. An additional 30p charge to apply to each item per cash transaction if cash is reintroduced.
Well, I'll let you go first, and I've got a further thought to add as well.
My only concern with that is the end of June part, is that weather is unpredictable, and we have seen it in certain years where our income has been quite low because of the weather. So as long as we have that discretion that actually, if it gets to mid-July, or end of July, where the weather picks up again, that we could still introduce it, if that's okay, because the shoulder months of April, May and June can be very unpredictable with income.
Broadly speaking, that was along the lines of where I was heading with it. Councillor Harris, you proposed it, so
I'm happy to consider alternative routes there.
this is what I'm getting at, so how would we like that phrased, just to help Charlene, councillor Hope?
Sorry, just before you go to the amendment, I don't think there's a need to amend it. I think we're saying no earlier than the beginning of June, do you change it?
Yeah.
If, we're letting the officer use
Yeah.
some common sense here.
Agree with that.
If it rains every day and it's actually the weather that's impacting the cash intake rather than the trial, the officer can do that. So I would say,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's fine. I don't feel it needs changing.
No earlier than by the end of June.
Are you
I'm
happy with that,
propose
councillor
that
Harris?
still, yes.
Councillor Atkinson, are you still happy to second?
Yes, except I would like the officer to have the discretion rather than discretion.
Fair point. Councillor Dickinson.
I know I'm going on about this a bit, but how do you think the general public are gonna feel if, they are wanting to pay cash, if they've got to pay 30p? How do you think that's gonna look? How do you think it's gonna reflect on us as a council, that we're that petty? Because that's how I see it, that we want to charge them 30p just because they want the right to pay cash. I do not agree with this at all.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hayton.
Can there not be a position where if you want to pay cash, you've got to just go somewhere and pay for your deck chair from one point if you want to pay cash? Like you do in the supermarket, a cash only till. Just an option that it's cash only, you just go and buy your ticket from somewhere and then go back. Make it inconvenient if you need to, that they've got to walk a long way to do it, but still give the option to you will take cash.
My initial thought is that doesn't necessarily go to the reason it's been asked for by the officers,
Yeah.
but will indicate it to speak, so well.
Yeah, it's certainly an option that we spoke about as a team to see if that was possible. But it would still mean that we would need to check floats in the morning. We would still need to do bank charges, whether that's, and because we bank every single day, we would have to, if somebody buys one deck chair, we would then have to go and bank that for £3.70, incur bank charges. And then we're also checking floats again as well. So it was certainly an option we looked at, but from a operational trying to streamline things, we wanted to not have that bullshit.
Thank you very much. And keen that we move towards the vote fairly, so councillor Weller and then councillor Leo.
Very quickly, how the majority of residents will view it, I think, is that we are trying to keep control of the money that we spend and the money that we pay out. We keep saying we're trying to offer value for money, and this is one of those ways that we're doing it. And there was a time not so very long ago where if you wanted to pay by cheque, people charged you. It's the reverse of that. I can remember paying an extra £1 because I was paying by cheque rather than by cash.
And by card at one
And card. So it's just reverse that. It does reduce choice, but sometimes we don't have the luxury of choice because we are looking to save money.
Thank you very much, councillor Leo.
Yeah, I'm very much a firm believer in cash is king. There's two final points I want to raise. Number one is what happens if something goes wrong with our card machines and no one's able to pay because there's an issue with the system. And then number two, I hope PIT members in here won't be complaining when banks are closing, because we're then become part of the problem of banks in town being used less by less people going in there. Banks monitor footfall in their branches, so the less people that use a branch, the worse that position that branch is in when it comes to rounds of closures. We've lost a number of banks in town already, Barclays, etc. And this is going to be another hit for them in terms of people using them. So I'd be interested to hear the point on what happens if the system does go wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
So regarding the card machines, so they all run offline because 3G, 4G and 5G is terrible in the summer when there's so many people. We have run it for 2 years and we have not had a single problem. It's been very, very good systems in place, and it runs similarly to how the card machines on airlines work, as it's offline, and then when it gets Wi-Fi and then all the downloads on, yeah.
Thank you very much. I think we've had a pretty in-depth discussion on this one, so I think we should move to the vote. We've had the proposal, we've had the second, from the councillor Atkinson as well. Form of words is on the board, it's been read out, previously. So I think we'll move to the vote. All those in favour? 7. All those against? And 3 against. Any abstentions? None. So that is carried. Thank you very much, and thank you very much, Will.
Thank you, Will.
Thank you also to the councillors, because that was a good in-depth discussion that moved the point forward, so thank you. Item 8 next. So this is the events policy, green events commitment, and Catherine Stott is going to introduce the report. Good evening, Catherine.
Hiya. So this report presents proposed updates to the events policy, namely a new environmental responsibility section and a green events commitment as an appendix. For a bit of background, the previous policy included a green events guide, which did contain comprehensive advice, but stopped short of stating any mandatory requirements. The guide was temporarily removed last time the document was updated, with the intention to reintroduce it again in future, which brings us up to now. The proposed updated events policy contains a new section on environmental responsibility, which describes our approach. The Green Events Guide appendix has been replaced with the Green Events Commitment that introduces 10 mandatory requirements for all events, alongside a menu of additional good practice measures, of which organisers must choose 5 that they will commit to. Organisers will also sign a declaration to confirm this. A page of resources has also been included to assist organisers in delivering greener events, for example, with details of where reusable event cups and litter picking equipment can be hired. Environmental considerations are also being embedded into the wider events management process, from additional questions at the initial inquiry stage to updated terms and conditions, and a new follow-up checklist to support on-site checks on the day. The policy aims to strike a balance between raising environmental standards while staying achievable and flexible for the range of events that we host. It was developed collaboratively with the resort manager and events officers, and draws on best practice from other local authorities, sustainable event guidance, and advice from organisations such as Litter Free Dorset. It's also been reviewed by the CEE working group and tested for feasibility. Members are therefore asked to approve the updated events policy and green events.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Hope.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you, Catherine, for the introduction and overview. And yeah, I look at this with, as I said in my declaration, event organisation experience of both small community events and large scale events draw thousands of people into Weymouth and the shoulder months. I'm really concerned. I think I'm a good event organiser. I've been on the training, I've produced event organisations, I've worked with SAG, the Olympified version of SAG, where they went mad on risk assessments after the Olympics because they had all their training. And I'm really concerned about what's being put in front of me and how I could have complied. I don't think this is being to any forum of event organisers that come to our land. So when we last updated the policy, Charlotte Langley Ryan, who was managing it before, ran a session with event organisers to float the changes and how it would impact them. I don't think we've had any feedback in this instance from those that are going to have to work to these new conditions. I think it's going to scare a lot of event organisers, and Councillor Weller might have some views because I know she's organised events. They're asking a lot from volunteers with no indication of training and support. I think it's going to put the nail in the coffin of a lot of our small community events that just won't be able to manage this. It's a lot to ask. And I think where we have failed as a council when we introduced the green guidance line and set it as an aspiration, we didn't encourage and push event organisers enough in those years where it was a softer requirement to now a dictation. To the thought of somebody coming in on the morning of my event when stress levels are already high enough with a checklist to say, can I check where your bike parking rack is? Can I check where did that trader come from? What was the impact of that requirement? Is enough to make me want to walk away from some of the events I organise. So I kind of feel actually, and I apologise for not bringing this up sooner, but I had the cabinet papers to read for last night, which were enough bedtime reading before this one. I kind of feel like we actually need to take a step back, engage with our own organisations, offer them training, support, keep it as a nice to do for the next 12 months, and then introduce it when they've had some training and support from the council. And I've got all faith that you will be able to do that, because I'm already really impressed with some of the other works you're doing within our carbon reduction and the environment as a whole for the council.
Thank you very much. Catherine, in your introduction, you mentioned a sort of feasibility assessment.
Yeah.
Which I'm assuming will answer some of those areas.
Yeah, I apologise that the wider events organisers weren't consulted. I did work quite extensively with the resort manager and events officers who are quite experienced in the range of events that we run. Many of the measures in the commitment are largely unchanged from the original green events guide, so hopefully shouldn't be a surprise. If there were particular measures you were concerned about, I would be interested to know what they are. Things like the bike rack that you mentioned, that was part of the optional menu where you choose which you can comply with. In those sections, there's an option for other, please specify, allowing events organisers to decide something else that they could do if they can't comply with the measures that are suggested. So not every event is expected to provide a bike rack, for example.
Yeah, I got you choose one of the ones, but it was just an example of that. When you come and did your inspection in the morning of the event,
it was felt that the 10 mandatory measures were neither enormously radical or particularly unambitious either. We aim to find a balance between the two. We did sit down and do a tabletop exercise where we worked through several different events, with internal and external, different sizes, to wargame whether they would work with the policy, and we felt that they either already did, or it wouldn't be too much of a stretch for us to be able to work with them to bring them up to those standards. And it's accepted that it's a journey. The policy wasn't written to simply describe what we do already. Does that answer your question?
In some ways, I think I understood most of that, but I'm just concerned on the impact, especially the small community groups that organise fun days and have a local burger man turn up, and we're now expecting them to offer them free water, and they haven't got the facilities to do things like that. I just kind of feel like we've looked at it as an organised, sorry, Chair, to come back in without asking. We've sort of looked at this about what we can do as a town council with the expertise of event organisations and the expertise that we've got in environments and event management, but we've not looked at, and Louis will see the same a little more with the events that they run at the Top Club and bits and pieces like that. We've not thought about the volunteer who organise their one community event in the year for the community that struggles to do a risk assessment. In these cases, now they've got to do environmental impact, carbon emissions. It's just a lot to jump on people now at the beginning of the year when they're looking at their events. I kind of feel like it should be an aspiration and move into over a period of time in this direction with training and support.
So just picking up a few of those points, things like calculating the carbon footprint, and Catherine, feel free to correct me if I'm getting this wrong. But I'm looking through Appendix A at the additional actions, and that sort of item comes from the section organisers must commit to at least one action each category. And as Catherine laid out, there is a section for other. What are you doing around energy? Is that the right interpretation?
Yeah.
Bring you in again, Catherine. That's
correct, yeah.
That's right.
Also, some of the things that you described, they just simply might not be applicable to very small events. So when we did our tabletop exercise, we used the beach motocross as an example, and also something like the dinosaur run as well. So we wouldn't be expecting the dinosaur run to be providing event litter bins because it's such a size that it wouldn't be required.
Thank you very much. Councillor Harris.
I think that there's also, we mustn't forget that the council now has two other new officers working for ourselves. We've got a community development officer who can work with these small groups and the community groups and help them if they don't understand some of the ideas we're asking of them. And we have a new events coordinator for the beach team. So again, there is further help available from the council to try and ensure that we get this in place. Now, yes, we may not get everything we want from it, and we must be prepared that when we review it in September, October, November, then maybe we didn't quite manage this or we didn't quite get there. That's fair enough, but unless we have it there, we'll never get there.
Thank you very much, Councillor Harris. Anyone else like to speak on this item? Councillor Wade.
I think it's a great aspiration. I'm really concerned at how quick I can see a lot of people being, as Councillor Hope says, I can see a lot of smaller people being scared off. They shouldn't really be, but I can see it happening, and I think that that would be a great shame. So whilst I'd really like us to achieve this, I'd like a longer introduction, perhaps with a greater support and communication on how they can get that support, how they can get the help. For example, where you put other, I can imagine a number of people thinking, what the heck would other be? And then somebody by their side saying, well, you could do something as tight, and I can't think off the top of my head what other might be, but there will be other things that are attainable, but without some support, they're not going to have the imagination to think of that. So I think it's a great piece of work. It's very aspirational. I think it's aspirational in the right way. I'd like us to have a little bit of time to introduce it so we don't scare off not only those people who are already doing things, but those people who are thinking of doing things, because we badly want to keep them on board and encourage them to be doing things. If we could achieve that, I'd be very pleased, because things are great visible.
Just on a couple of points raised there, I assume that event organisers would be given contact details of someone that can support with this process.
That's one of the reasons we introduced a resources page at the back of the document, which also gives, say, for example, on using local suppliers, it would give a number of different people that you can contact, like the bids or various market organisers, to put people in touch.
Yeah.
The measures that we put in as mandatory, we didn't consider that they were particularly going overboard, so to speak, in terms of what we were asking, and are quite common for many events and sort of outdoor events and markets and things. It's quite common for the organisers to request that kind of thing. And we do intend, next week we're planning to do a look ahead at the events that are coming up this year, so that we can identify where there might be particular ones that would encounter challenges, and the events officer is there well before an event occurs to work with the organiser to help support them, put things in place.
Yeah, and also worth noting that on the mandatory section, there's a process by which exceptions can be considered. And I imagine sensibly timeframes, if we're putting this in now, things that are in the, a sensible approach would be taken. Is that fair to say? Yeah. Where was I heading next? Councillor Toft, I believe.
Thank you. I'm a bit more familiar with this because it came to the CE group, and I fully support it because I get incensed when an event's taken place and the amount of litter that gets left, or the amount of plastic cups or, and I just think, why? Why does this happen? And it's our expense clearing up after these events when somebody has not provided litter bins and has not done a litter pick themselves. So I don't think it's unreasonable to ask people to consider what they're providing and then be responsible for it. And I think this may be at first glance people are thinking, oh, that's going to be really difficult. But I think if you read it carefully and you read it thoroughly and you think about what's being said, it's not that scary. And there's lots of advice to help people. And we, it's acknowledged that it's a new policy and, it's not, we've got to start somewhere. And I think this is a good start. So.
Thank you very much. Councillor O'Leary, was it?
Yeah, like most of these things, I think the proverb I always look at is the road to hell's paved with good intentions. There's always good intention behind all these types of things, and the climate agenda is probably the best. Been involved in events over the years in my ward. I even went to one at the Marsh last year. That's how far I travelled, which is my carbon footprint. So that's my carbon footprint. I'm probably the greenest. I'm probably the greenest person in here in terms of actual carbon footprint per person. I don't leave Livermore. I've been to George Stewart's. Anyway, and I love events, and part of an event is having a really dirty, greasy burger made from a cow that produces CO2, served in a bit of plastic stuff. I put it in the bin. I think that's not to do with the climate. I just don't like litter, and I think that's just common basic decency. I don't think it's anything to do with the climate or saving the planet or anything like that. I think it's a big ask to put on all small event holders all of these extra things and wishes to do, when, quite frankly, if you want to talk about, and I've mentioned hypocrisy before in this matter, if you want to talk about the town council allows beautiful, dirty tanks to drive down the Esplanade as part of Veterans Day, beautiful vehicles that may it continue. The CO2 that comes out of that probably causes a lot more than a plastic water bottle being left on a field. I don't think we can lecture to other organisations when some of our activities, the fireworks, once again, I love them. I think they're wonderful. What's the CO2 from that? Probably more than anything else that's going to come out of this policy. I just think we've got to be in perspective, and I think we just got to learn that, yes, if you run an event, you clean up after yourself. I think that's just common sense. I don't think that's anything to do with being green, being clean. Well, it is being clean, but not in that way, or anything to do with the climate or anything like that. It's just common sense. If you run an event in Weymouth, clean up after yourself, but you shouldn't have to provide someone with water, potentially have to provide a bike rack, or pick one or the other, multiple choices. Let's just get back to basics. I just think this is far too complicated, and I don't think small time groups who, and I run a charity in Livermore Community Centre. We operate on a shoestring effectively. All of our people are volunteers. The top clubs are similar. They put on a brilliant fund every year. Once again, volunteers. They don't need this extra hassle. It's bad enough filling a risk assessment these days. I mean, goodness me, someone hits their knee on the corner of the table and they've got to think about saving the planet on top of it. So let's get some perspective into it, I think, and therefore I won't be supporting this, I'm afraid, which is probably no surprise, but.
Thank you for the confirmation. As Councillor Hope next, and then Councillor Dickinson after, and then.
Yeah. I just want to come back on a point that Councillor Toft made. I'm a 14,001 environmental implementation officer. I've had the training
And the t-shirt.
and the t-shirt, and this worries me. And I've got the expertise. So I'm worried that we're putting this out. We're going to lose events to Dorchester, Chickerell, Portland. They're not going to come in
Independently.
because we have not consulted with them first. I agree with the principles, I agree with the direction. Many of them, as Will know, we already do at motocross. We measure the distance of vendors travel, local ones. We've always had a lot of this information in our terms and conditions of our bookings of stalls, local providers, all of that good stuff. We're already doing this as an organisation, but I'm seriously worried about our small community groups, the message is sending them. This should have been put for a group, engaging with them. It should have come to one of our community network events to say, this is the changes we're looking to make. This is the training support we can offer. And we should have done a lot more work before this got here this evening to us. It's adopted. It's then got to be implemented. I got no issue saying to stop launch for 12 months and we will give training, support, guidance, everything we need to do to support our voluntary community sector. And let's face it, that's why we've just removed fees and charges from these events, because we want to encourage more to support disadvantaged families in our community and give them things to do. And then we put this hurdle in, it's just the wrong message. So I've got no issue supporting the policy, the direction of the policy. Last time the policy, before this, the green guide was removed, I was one of the ones that sat down with the officers and said, put it in, make it an aspiration. We've declared an environmental emergency. We have to work towards this. What we failed to do as a council is implement it in the last months. What I'm asking now is soft launch, training, support, guidance, and then move forward with it.
See, Charlie, piping away to my left. We'll go.
But I have to say, again, it is a great direction, and I fully understand why we're doing it.
What's your thoughts on that, Councillor Hope? So that's obviously taken from what you've just been saying. Sorry for people watching online, there's a form of wording appeared on the board.
So the committee approved to soft launch the events policy and green events commitment for 12 months. During this time, officers to train, support and provide guidance to event organisers.
So I hope you feel your way, it's obviously based on what you just.
Yeah, I want to emphasise on the community event, really, but we should, yeah, no, actually, it's all because it's a bit difficult, actually, isn't it? Because we've got a lot of commercial events as well that are going to have to follow this, and they should, you know,
They're making money.
they're making money. So I think the emphasis needs to be on community events. Yeah.
Please do.
Just to reiterate and correct a couple of things, so the requirements aren't new because the green events guide had been in place for some time previously, and many of these things were there for a number of years. The policy doesn't prohibit anybody from having a dirty burger from a local supplier, nor does it prohibit tanks. With regards to small events, the policy recognises that many requirements just won't apply, full stop. And the events officers are there to support small community events organisers. We did develop the policy with them in mind, and in our tabletop exercise, we ran through some small events, and it was considered that they would be able to comply fairly easily.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dickinson.
Well, I actually find myself agreeing with Councillor Hope. You know, I'm a little bit worried about this, and I really don't want to sort of.
I'm worried about you.
Yeah, I am. Wait till I go home and tell Peter. We
agreed with him as well.
Sorry, Councillor Dickinson.
sort my heart.
Carry on.
I don't really want to sort of highlight particular ones, but the one that really sort of, I keep reading it is number 2. Food and drink vendors must offer the option for customers to bring their own reusable food or drinks container. I mean, if you go to an event, how many of us think, oh gosh, I must take my own cup and my own Tupperware box? And how can that be implemented by an event? You know, the person that's running the event, how can they do that? I don't know whether some of this has been. I mean, some of the ideas I do agree with, you know, and I can see where they're going with this, but you can't really sort of expect people to take their own cups and saucers, should we say, rather than saying.
I think I'm right in saying this isn't about mandating use of their own equipment. It's just, for example, you can go in. Again, I'll come to you in a second, Catherine, if I'm getting this wrong, but my understanding this is similar to lots of the cafes in town, where you'll see people out their handbag or out their rucksack or whatever appears a reusable coffee mug and being okay with that happening. Is that the right sort of interpretation?
Yeah, similar to how you would go into a coffee shop and take your own reusable.
But surely if you're going to an event, you don't really want to be doing that, do you?
You don't have to, it's not mandatory.
Yeah, but they are saying, you know, eventually, you know, if you don't bring your own cup, you can't have a drink. Must offer the option, but how are they going to say that to people if they've only gone there for the first time? How can they offer that option? That's what I'm trying to get.
I think it just links in with a lot of people now are carrying reusable bottles, reusable coffee mugs, metal straws. You see people pulling them out of handbags and rucksacks and pockets.
Can't take those into Disney, you know?
But again, it isn't mandated. It's about guiding people to a thought process where that's okay. Is that fair, Catherine?
It means that, if you bring your reusable, cup to a coffee vendor, that they have to offer to fill the cup in that rather than giving you a disposable cup.
Thank you very much.
That makes a lot of sense.
Councillor Atkinson.
Yeah, I know nothing about organising events, so I listen to what councillor Holmes says, and it seems very sensible. I am concerned about small local events being badly affected, so I agree with the idea of moving progressively towards the aim rather than achieving it immediately. And I suppose one of the points that is that I think, not by the current officer, I hasten, but it could be too officiously applied, and I feel that with an example tonight where I feel the allotment issue is being too officially applied and inspecting it in the middle of the winter more than once, you know, so let's not get into that position and let's go with what's said is in red. And the final point I would say, very pedantic, just to show I read the thing, where it says in purpose in the 1 and 9, it says protect nature. Could we protect nature and enhance biodiversity? Could we go beyond just protecting it? Can't that improve matters?
We can make that amendment, we have to be into it.
We can, I'm not sure if you would enhance biodiversity in running an event. That's maybe why it hadn't been.
No, it does occur, it does say protect nature twice.
Thank you very much. I think I'm right to say we're over to Councillor O'Leary.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to clarify some points from what the officer said. I wasn't saying that these would prevent you having a greasy road or banned tanks. What I'm saying is it's the fact that, and it comes back to this once again of hypocrisy. I'm quite a black and white person. Either something's black or it's white. It's either right or it's wrong normally in my book. If you think the planet is doomed and the carbon reduction is this and all that, and we're going to die and we need to reduce the carbon, then why do we have a veterans parade with all these tanks? Why do we allow motocross in that case? Why do you mandate all these things? What, you know, mandate motocross to provide free water, but you allow them to drive these vehicles on the beach? To me, it's just completely pointless. People making themselves feel better about, you know, driving a diesel car, etc., and then private life, flying on a plane. I'm happy for people to get on with their day-to-day lives in general, run events, just make sure you clean up after yourself. You don't have to try and do this, you don't have to try and do that to save a bit of carbon here and a bit of carbon there. We're trying to nitpick things when surely some of the things that we do are far worse than the things we're trying to prevent. If you go by that book, and I don't want to be misquoted that I'm in favour of banning any of the things I just complained about, far from it. I just think you have to put all these things in perspective, really. And I just don't see what the benefit of this policy is to the residents of Livermore, other than to make the people that put on events day-to-day lives that little bit more difficult. I don't think it's going to bring down carbon levels or CO2 or stop the sea levels rising anytime soon. I'm against it, by the way.
Councillor Toft.
I'm afraid I have to come back on that. I mean, this council inherited, the beach motocross and the parade of vehicles. And I think if you try to remove them now, for whatever reason, you couldn't do it. But there has to be a balance. And in some cases, we are producing carbon, but that means that we have to work that little bit harder where we can reduce it, so that the overall sum of carbon is not as great as it would be if we just said, sod it, do what you like. So that is why we do it. We've got it, and every community around the country does the same thing. You might think it doesn't account for much, but it does. It all adds up. So it's worth doing.
I'll leave Asian.
Can I just make one point?
No, because Catherine's raised that hand. I can come to you afterwards. Councillor Dickinson. Catherine.
Continuing the carbon issue, the beach motocross event management plan actually makes a number of very good environmental commitments already. including a tree planting donation to Weymouth Town Council to offset the carbon.
Councillor Dickinson.
I don't want to be a killjoy, but it has occurred to me listening to all of this, you know, has anybody actually sat back and realised that we're probably facing World War III? Will really any of this really matter? We might all be blown up tomorrow, you know?
Thanks for that.
Well, thing is, you know, I've got a son in the Navy and, you know, he'll be the one first going out there to sort of defend everybody, won't he?
Right, let's just 1 second. Terry. Councillor Harris, can we carry on? We have,
No, I didn't hear what you said.
thank you.
I don't know what Mr. Harris is saying to me. Could you
Tell you later.
Tell you later.
So,
Tell you playtime.
we've got formal words on the screen that initially came from what Councillor Hope was saying. Is this something you're happy to, I don't think we ever reached the point of a formal
No,
proposal.
there's a version. It's just the recommendation has been picked up prior to discussion, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've captured as a committee works. I haven't proposed yet, and I won't propose because I'm only interested.
Okay, all right then.
I'll propose.
Well, Councillor Atkinson had indicated first, so let's go to Councillor Atkinson.
I'm sorry, I'll propose it, but I just wondered trivially whether the motocross could introduce an electric vehicle class into its country.
We do have electric bikes.
We thought I was doing.
No, can we talk through the chair and?
Oh, sorry.
Come on, we'll not move this forward to a point where we reach a decision.
Proposing it.
So proposed by Councillor Atkinson, I'm imagining you're seconding, so Councillor Weller is seconding. We've had a big discussion in the round with this. Is there any final comments before we move to a vote situation? Councillor.
Yes, sorry, and I just want to ask the officers a question here. We talk about events, a lot of focus has been given on to big events such as Motocross Seafood Festival. And we talked about those community fun day elements, but a community event that also includes litter picks, tree planting days, and that goes back onto Councillor Atkinson's point about events that enhance our biodiversity. They do exist. We do have community groups that plant trees, gardening, everything else like that. So we do need to consider in there and in the guidance and training we give, it isn't just those big events, those fun days, you know, the big ones, that we are also talking about litter picks, tree planting events, yogas. Everything we do is an event on our land that has also got to be thought about when we're implementing this policy and the training and support we give.
Would you like to come back on that, Catherine? Or you have to? Okay, fine, thank you very much. Right, we'll move to a vote. We've got a proposal. It's been seconded. The words are up on the screen. We've read them out loud, so we all know what we're voting on, I believe. So all those in favour?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7.
All those against? So that is carried. Right, thank you very
You
much.
voted for that after all you said.
Right, so
I agree with direction.
item 9, guys, can we move on? Item 9 is the information item. So any councillor questions regarding information items should have been submitted in advance. Obviously, they've been found for the public as well on the agenda. So members are simply asked to note those information items. And then that brings us to the close of the meeting. So members are reminded to leave promptly, please, as officers will be knocking the building at homes to go to. Thanks very much, everyone.